And all right, we are officially starting the Mortgage Coach Tuesday interview. Every Tuesday morning, I'm interviewing someone amazing with the goal of hosting and putting on the best sales meeting in the mortgage industry. So Khai McBride, the stakes are high, brother. You ready to put on the best sales meeting in the mortgage industry this week?
I'm ready to put on the best sales meeting today.
All right. Well, for those of you who don't know Khai McBride, he's a personal friend of mine. I've known him for more years than I can count, but most importantly, pre-meltdown, Khai was an OG mortgage coach rock star. Had done, over 1,000 TCAs and had been on a number of stages, Load Toolbox. I had interviewed him back in the day. We created a lot of content together before video and creating content was a thing. Remember, Khai?
Yeah, that was when PowerPoints and all that stuff was so new. Everything was revolutionary.
Oh,
I did an animated PowerPoint and it blew everybody's mind.
Yeah, and that's another thing that distinguished you back in the day is just the quality of design and content was like ahead of its time. When everybody was getting their business cards made at printers, Khai was creating really polished content. Now today, Khai is a new kind of rock star. Check this out. We posted our promo on Khai and you're at 196 likes, 24 comments. The Mortgage Coach community loves you, brother. I've had a number of texts and emails, ask Khai this, ask Khai that. Of course, half of them are jokes, but everybody, Khai McBride is here. Khai, before we get into the official interview, you were chiming in during my celebration of Ron Quintero last week, and you had mentioned a story in comments that made me wish you were live on that call. So if you don't mind, before we get into the interview, just tell us a Ron Quintero story, whether it's the one in comments or a different one.
Yeah, Ron was one of those special guys. He was one of those fundamentally sound business people, and he was one of those people that always made you think. I was part of his Debt Advisory Alliance. I coached with him a little bit, and he always had a way of making me look at the business differently. And there were two things that I remember from Ron that I posted that were pretty significant when I think about his impact on me. One was never lose sight of the opportunity that we have in the market. I remember he said to me once, and he probably said it to a group, he said, if you don't ever think that there's any business, just get in a car and drive up and down your neighborhood. And every time you see a for sale sign, know that somebody's moving a piece of property. And every for sale sign there is, that means somebody's selling a house and that seller is going to turn into a buyer, and you call that person, you ask them for a mortgage. There's opportunity everywhere. And we sit in our offices and we get stuck like, where am I going to get the next mortgage? Where am I going to get the next mortgage? And he's like, bro, there's just opportunity everywhere. And that's how he was. And what did Craig say? He said, it's the blinding flash of the obvious. And he had a way of doing that. I considered him one of my mentors. He was always really supportive, you and Ron, since the very beginning. By the way, Dave, do you remember how we got introduced or how we met? It's interesting when I think about Mortgage Coach. I will remind you.
Yeah.
This was in 2006, 2005. And I said to you, because I have a way of being bold like this. And I said, Dave, Mortgage Coach is a really, really great point of sale tool. But I don't know that you realize it, but I use it as this amazing marketing tool. And I would pump out TCAs and I would send them as marketing pieces to my database, not just point of sale when I was trying to explain, here's a different mortgage, but I would send them out to create interest. And the database marketing machine got created out of that. Remember?
I
collaborated a little bit.
I remember that. I just couldn't remember who it was. I think it was Tim Brahim who introduced us, right?
Yeah, it was Tim.
Yeah, so Tim introduced us. And I remember you were just this young rock star that was killing it with Mortgage Coach. And then I totally remember that you were the one that, taught me and showed me how to use it as marketing. And I totally remember that you were the inspiration behind the marketing machine. I just, I didn't remember all the details, where we were in person and stuff.
That was bold. And the other thing that Ron did was he was just a really, really great person. There was a time, and everybody remembers this, it was middle of the meltdown. And some of us were trying to help some of our clients do loan mods. And I was, through Ron, he set up a loan mod company, and I was helping a few of my clients go through a loan mod. And as everybody know, they're difficult to do. And I had a very frustrated client, and he was so frustrated, he decided to serve me and sue me. So I get this court date, and it's at 8 a.m., up here in the LA courts. And I called Ron and I told him about it. And Ron said, you know what, I'm going to drive up and I'm going to help represent you. Now, Ron lives down in Orange County in Laguna, or was in Newport, and I'm up here in LA. And in traffic, that's easily a 2.5-hour drive in traffic to get here at 8 a.m. So he drove 2.5 hours, showed up in court. As soon as the judge heard it, the judge pretty much threw it out, because I'm just a loan rep. I don't even own the company. And, Ron still looked at the guy and said, I'm sorry this is thrown out, but if you need any help, you can please give me a call. And that's how he was. And, so I thanked him. He drove back home, probably took another 2 hours. So Ron was the type of guy that would drive 4.5 hours basically to show up and help me for 4 minutes. And I remember those types of people that will go out of their way. It wasn't, no, I'm busy. It wasn't, he said, tell me the date. I'll set the time aside. And that's just the type of person he was. And I remember the story how, he got the bottle of wine for Cindy. I mean, all of that's really vivid in my head when it comes to Ron.
Yeah, that's a great story, brother. Well, a great also segue to our interview. Anyone who wants to hear more about the Ron story, there'll be a link down below. We celebrated with a number of top mortgage professionals last week. Check that out if you want to hear some more ideas and strategies. I'm going to be in San Diego on the 31st to have his in-person celebration. So anyone that's close to Ron, check that out. But let's get into the interview, because when you and I were doing the prep, I came out of that prep just so pumped. We came up with this concept around, it's in today's market, it's not about, doing more, it's about doing better. So why don't we start with just tell us, what does that mean? What is today's market? How do you see today's market, and what advice do you give to the mortgage coach community?
That's a question I get asked all the time. There's two things that I get asked all the time. It's either what's going on with the market, what do you do to address the market, or take me to the next level. In terms of the market, again, I like to say a lot of sort of left field things. And the market is the average, right? And if you're following the market, you're following the average. And so if you're always thinking about what's the market doing, or you're chasing the market, you're basically following the average. And the reason why I said it's not about doing more or going where the market is, it's about doing better. Because if you look at the 1% in everything, they're not affected by the market, okay? Yeah, they're gonna have some fluctuations, but they're still at the top. So I think it's more about positioning yourself to be at the top structurally in terms of unique selling proposition, so the market doesn't affect you that much. And that's why I say, let's not chase the new idea, the new strategy, and do more of it, because even if you did, the market's going to shift, the strategies are going to shift. How do you position yourself where you create really great structure, really great business structure, sound business practices, where that's 80 to 90% of your business, and then the market's the cream on top. It's the fluff, right? It's the cherry. And so when I get asked that question, how are you going to take me to the next level, or how do you get to the next level? The first thing that I ask people is what does that even mean? What does that mean, the next level for people? Is it just next level production? To me, it means getting yourself to a level that you are essentially market proof. So you're above the market, okay? And one of the things that I've done is over the years, and it took me a while to really understand this, is that I have studied originators, and I figured out that there are actually 4 levels of originators. And understanding those levels, that's what it's about when you get to different levels. And I mentioned to you before, I have slides on that, so I can show you what that means.
Yeah, well, let's do this. So folks, I want to make this extremely interactive. So if you have questions for Khai, I'm going to be monitoring Facebook Live and Q&A in Zoom. Also, there's going to be multiple times where Khai and I, drive this dialogue into the Mortgage Coach Facebook group. So bring questions to us, and Khai, feel free to share your slides anytime. And remember, folks, while he has slides because he thinks they will help make this a more compelling hour for you, this is a conversation. So I'm going to ask him questions, and we would love for you to ask questions also. I'll let you know when I see your slides, Kai.
Yep.
And we see them.
What I figured out is when I've looked at originators, they fall into four different categories or 4 different levels according to production. So you've got your level 1, which is your 0 to 5 loan officer, your level 2, your 6 to 10, your 11 to 17, and your 18 to 24. And what I've realized is that each one of those groups do business very, very similarly. So the ones that are doing 0 to 5, they do business in a certain way, and they do business completely differently than a level 3, which is an 11 to 17, or level 2 or a level 4. And this is actually a way for me to illustrate that there are different levels. And when you're looking at your business and wherever you are, because everybody's looking at this screen, and you're somewhere in those 4. And if you're asking yourself, well, how do I get to the next level, and how do I address the market? Understand where you are, why you're there, and then if you understand the characteristics of the next level, it'll help you get there a lot easier. Okay. And so level 1, I call them the chasers, because these are the people that are always looking for their strategies. They're chasing strategies. Hey, what's the new thing? What's the new thing? Right? They're the ones who choose the loan officers, 3 to 4 loan officers. The level 2 people that do 6 to 10, I find them very high disciplined. So yes, they're looking for strategy, but the thing about them is that they're very regimented. They have their time management down. They're very focused. The level 3, once you get into bigger production, they're more team oriented. I call them builders because they're building teams, they're building processes. And so how they do business is completely different than a level 1. And in the community and everywhere, Dave, right? We've seen this question before. When you hear a big producer speak, it could be a Jeremy Forcier or somebody, and he's talking on these levels of teams, and then you've got this solo originator saying, well, I don't have a team, right? So how do I do that, right? And how do you hear? But it's true, because it's a different level of originator. And then finally you have the level 4, where they're just market leaders. So they're basically a level 3 on steroids. They're market leaders. They've got huge impact on social media. They're speaking. They perhaps have a radio show like Craig did. And they're just at a different place when it comes to exposure. And so if we recognize these levels and see and figure out where you are, then you can understand how to get to the next level. Now, really quickly, everybody, for your business, there's 2 things that you need. You need a unique value proposition, and you need great service. And so these are just constants along the top. And this, to me, summarizes the mortgage business in having a unique value proposition, having great service are ways that you get up to the different levels, okay? And service is an interesting one, because I always ask people, what does service mean, right? So like, Dave, how would you define service? What does service mean to you? Great service in the mortgage industry.
Well, I mean, I'm going to speak to that a little more than just defining it, because I think service
it's a loaded question.
Yeah, it's a loaded question. But I have this belief that as a mortgage professional, referral-based local mortgage professional, the service that you deliver a family at the point of sale needs to have so much value that they would pay you $1,000 to $2,000 a year for you to be their loan officer. Like, it's got so much obvious value. Service is not a great rate. Service is not closing loans in however many days you say close loans. That is blah, 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 blah. That is table stakes. Service needs to go beyond that. So I don't know if I answered that the way you wanted, but those are that's a little bit of my rant on service.
I think service entails all 3 of that, and I call it the 3 E's. There's execution, there's the experience, and there's your expertise. So execution first and foremost. You have to deliver, and you have to close your loan on time, because if it blows up and you have to close on time, you're going to overlook the rest of it. In terms of the other 2, and MortgageCoach and its place and how I use MortgageCoach, there's always the customer experience. We've talked about that for so many years, right? It's the experience. It's how we're delivering our information. how we're delivering the consultations. But then there's an expertise component as well. Because the expertise is showing, let me show you how to manage your debt, manage your equity, compare different mortgages. And using tools like MortgageCoach, it's able to showcase your expertise and your understanding of the market or rate watch and getting people to understand where the market's going, give them advice on the market. And then with that expertise, because a lot of people have that expertise, it's still a tool so that the experience is different. And over the years, we've seen the industry go to now a mobile platform, and the mobile platform, whether it's a phone or an iPad, that provides a completely different experience. I think one of the cool things that I've seen a lot is people doing open houses and watching some of your users have these iPad kiosks with MortgageCoach. Like, that's a really, really cool experience to demonstrate the expertise when you're getting people to do loans. And so when I go back to this chart and I say you have to raise your service levels, I don't think people have really defined what that is or how to attack it. Because is it sending people thank you cards, or is it closing on time? There's a little bit of a debate, but the reality of it is it's all three. And if you want to move up to these levels, really, really address all three, right? Ask yourself, am I providing the most expert service? Do I understand? Am I financially literate? Do I understand the market? Do I understand different loan programs? Can I tell people the advantages of a buy down program? Can I figure out, is it better to do single premium MI, or should I structure it this way? But then you have to have the tools to do it, to provide that great experience. And there's a lot of people that try to provide a great experience by phone calls and gifts and things like that, but then they don't showcase the expertise, right? And so you have to do all those things to bridge the gap. So now you have this really cool service and you have this unique selling proposition, which is, you know, my first slide, which is fundamentally how you get up to that level. So then at that point,
the way you broke this down, Khai, I love these three categories. We've already had a few people come in and comment on how cool your slides are. Are you going to be releasing these slides into the wild of the MortgageCoach Facebook group?
Yeah, I'll upload it to the Facebook group for everybody to download.
So remember, guys, it will be in the files section. It'll be a post for a few days, but we're getting so much activity in our group, you know, it'll be gone. If you're watching the recording of this, you might need to go into the files section, and you might even need to do a search by Khai's name. So thanks, brother, and keep it rolling, man. This is great.
Right. So at that point, you have this business model where you have unique selling your unique value proposition, and you have great service. So let's just say your unique value proposition, which I've seen in the community, is I'm going to help realtors with open houses, and I'm going to do this really cool kiosk, right? So that's your unique selling proposition, and you're going to do it with really great service. At this point, I think what plagues a lot of loan officers is they're too sales oriented, and that they just want to sell, and they want to go point of sale. They want to meet, they just want to hit up realtors and sell, talk to people and sell. Selling's great, but it's really about, but selling is going to give you a very, very narrow exposure. And that's where we have to think more about marketing. Okay. Marketing is really about exposure, brand awareness, and creating market share. So if you have this really cool, let's say open house MortgageCoach kiosk idea, and all you're doing is you're approaching realtors at open houses, you're going to have a very, very limited scope. So this is where we talked about video marketing. If this is such a cool idea, put out a video, right? Talk about what you do on Facebook and let hundreds and thousands of people hear your idea. That's what marketing is about. Marketing is about taking that really great idea and not keeping yourself a secret. You got to talk about it on Facebook. You got to do lunch and learns. You have to go to the realtor event, ask to be a speaker. Just talk about it. And then you get this level up here, which is about marketing, and that takes it up on steroids a little bit. Otherwise, you're just a fisherman. Right? And I don't want to be a spear fisherman. I want to have these big drag nets that I'm just pulling through the water, right? And that's another area that's going to get you up to the different levels. And if you look at a lot of the great originators up in this level 3, they've got that. You know, you have like a Dan Keller, who's a really great guy. He's marketing everywhere. The guy's always everywhere. Look, he's on video. He's on a lunch and learn. He's throwing events so that he can talk about his unique value proposition. He's not a secret. He's not a secret to us. People know his name because he's out there, but still delivering the same service and execution. Okay?
Hey, Kai,
but then,
real quick,
yep.
I want to jump in. So two thoughts. One, I am interviewing a top mortgage coach rock star this Friday on our mastermind call. His name's Jonathan McKinnon. And he does he's in South Bend, Indiana. He does a great job on Facebook. He does a great job on video. Any chance you could join myself and Todd Bookspan this coming Friday just to help provide color around what he's doing?
Shoot me the time. I'll look at my schedule. I think I can slide in. I think you guys normally do 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, 9 o'clock. But I want everybody to, just stop for a minute. If you're listening to the recording, put it on pause. And I want you to write down, what are the things that you're doing to market yourself, to build that brand? What are the big things you're doing? What are the little things? And I think people just overcomplicate this. Like this morning, I released a new Facebook article called Scriptapalooza Value Pack. And so that was a marketing initiative. And in 5 minutes, I said, hey, Todd, let's jump on Zoom. Him and I recorded a 3-minute and 40-second, the goal was 3 minutes video, and I uploaded that. So I mean, things that take 5 minutes, what Kai just talked about, most of you aren't doing. How often are you promoting yourself? What are some of the best ideas? And then my last question for anybody who's watching this, I want you to think over the past 2 weeks, what are some of the best things that you've done in this category? And share a comment below. If you're live and you know what you did, share it down below. If you're listening to the recording, share some little lightweight marketing thing that you've done in the past 2 weeks that spoke to what Kai is doing right here. Anyways, keep it going, brother. This is great. I just want to get ideas, engagement from the community.
No, you're one of the best moderators. And again, in the community, there's so much really cool stuff, but don't keep it a secret. And we're in a YouTube society now. We don't have to have perfection in our videos. Put up a video, let people listen to it, and then just work on improving. Gone are the days. I mean, don't get me wrong, professional videos look great, but if you just sit in front of a camera like I am, I'm basically propped up on a table with a decent background and good lighting, put out good information and do that regularly, and people will only remember you for your next one. And so even if it's okay, put up the next one and keep improving. Okay. So then in the 4 levels, then we run into this other situation. There's this wall that's right in the middle. I call it the 10-unit wall. It's the double-digit wall. And that wall is an issue, especially with the level 2 people, and everybody at level 2 understands this, and everybody at level 3, level 4 understands this, is when you hit this maximum hours wall, because it's really nice when you put in this work and effort to get yourself up to 9, 10 units, but why do you struggle getting to 12, or you get to 12, 13 units at some point, but then you'll fall back at any given moment, right? And because it's the max hours wall. And the max hours looks like this. And if you look at this really quickly, usually level 1s, level 2s, they're either working solo or they have a team member. They're not like level 3 where they have 2, 3, 4, 5 team members. And so there's an hours dilemma, because as you're working right at about 10 loans, it crosses that 40-hour mark. And if you continue working at a solo pace, you're going to go to 80, 100 hours. And that becomes the problem, right? And this is one of the hardest things I would say in the mortgage coach community. If I took a poll, it's getting over this maximum hours wall. It's like, I don't have enough hours to do things. I don't get enough hours to do things. And what do I do? Because I see some of the other originators, they got 3, 4 team members, but I'm not there yet. So how do I get over the wall? And I just want to illustrate why we have this wall, because I call it the factor of 7. For every 1 loan that you fund, you're working with about 7 active clients. So let's say you're funding 5 loans. That means that you're going to have probably on average, to average 5 loans, you're going to have 10 loans under contract, 15 pre-approved buyers, 10 prospects, which is 35 active clients. So if you want to go from 5 loans to 10 loans, you're not going from just 5 fundings to 10 fundings. You're going from 35 active clients to 70 active clients. And that just starts to get very, very exponential. And you run into this dilemma, which then people say, well, what you can do is, well, why don't we build a team, right? So then we build the team. We build out teams that look like this, and there's team structures. We hire LOAs, we hire processors, we hire marketing assistants, and with the team, it still looks like this though. And you can taper it off a little bit, right? And I say that because how many of you out there in the Mortgage Coach community have teams, but you're still finding yourself pushing hours, you're pushing hours, you're pushing hours, you're pushing hours. Because you're going to find sometimes even hiring bodies and throwing bodies at things doesn't solve your problem. Dave, I lost the signal with you. Are you still there?
Yeah, no, I'm still.
Oh, there you are. Okay, all right.
I was giving you the center stage, but since you called on me, I am looking for a great quote for Khai. So when we're going to promote the video, it's going to.
Got it.
If Khai says something that you're like, oh, I want to remember that great Khai McBride quote, post it down below, either in our Facebook group or in Zoom. I'm looking for a great Khai McBride quote from today's call. So looking out for it. Keep it going, brother.
Got it.
People are loving this, what you're doing.
Okay, so you have the hours dilemma, right? You have the hours dilemma. So we're gonna throw a team at it. I know a lot of really great originators that it tapers off. You're still running 60 hours up here. So what do we do? And this is where I get into the whole more versus better. Okay, more versus better. As an originator, 11 years of originating and 10 years as a coach, I've always asked myself, well, how do I get from here to here, or how do I help people get from here to here? And it's recognizing how to jump people from level 1 to level 2, level 2 to level 3, level 3 to level 4. And so down in the purple, wherever you are, pay attention to what I'm going to say here, because this is going to help you jump levels. So if you're level 1 and you're struggling to get out of that 2 unit, 3 unit, and you want to get to 7 to 8, it's really about focusing on your sales skills and your focus, your ability to focus and time management. And you need all of this stuff up here. This is content marketing, unique value proposition, service. But what I see plague level 1 people the most is either you need to sharpen your sales skills or you need to focus better. You're just not putting in the focus and energy to make your calls, set up your appointments, do your video. If you do that, that's truly the difference between level 1 and level 2. We get that, we're doing a little bit more. Again, that's a little bit more, but then we're going to hit this wall. And what this wall is about, it is about building a team, but you can't build a team unless you create systems first. Systems in your CRM, systems in your checklist, systems in your process. And I assure you, if you take the time, Tim Brahim was my mentor, and he has a really, really great mortgage coach interview. And you brought him on a couple times because he's just so phenomenal, Dave, about the perfect loan process. I ate up the perfect loan process when I first started, right? You create a perfect loan process. When you bring on your team, that's going to streamline your entire operations and how you do loans. That's going to free up all the time that you need to get away. When you have a perfect loan process, your team is completely coordinated. Linda Davison, who's a great person, says, without systems, you become your assistant's assistant, because it's just a bunch of people babysitting each other. And that's what takes you over the wall. Right here, systems gets you over the wall. Never delegate to somebody without a system, or else you're just delegating into however they do it. I had a client one day tell me, I was talking to her about her processing systems, and she said, well, I used to have a system, but my LOA left. And I said, no, you didn't have a system. Your LOA had a system, and your LOA took it with them, right? Your system would be, go to the community, watch Tim Brahim's perfect loan process interview, and that is the perfect thing for understanding how to create systems and to jump that wall. Okay.
So couple notes.
Dave,
couple notes here.
Yep.
One, I've interviewed Tim years ago, and I still think the interview I did from 7 years ago is still on point. Check it out. But I also interviewed him last year. I think it was last year, and it was called like Tim Brahim's Perfect Loan Process 2018. Who knows, maybe it was 2017, but it was recent. Check out both of them. And then Khai, before you move off of this slide, I wanna pretend like that wall that you put, going from level 2 to 3. I mean, let's face it, there is a wall from level 1 to level 2. And you did speak to it, like you covered it, but I want you to repeat that because there's a lot of people that, haven't got over the wall from level 1 to level 2. And I just want to make sure you give some bullet points on what are the biggest mistakes you see loan officers having and what are the most critical activities to get from level 1 to level 2 before you get off this slide.
There's a lot of great people in the mortgage coach. There's a lot of great interviews in the mortgage coach community that really exemplify the different things. So for example, I mentioned Dan Keller. He really exemplifies how to market and create brand awareness. When it comes to level 1, level 2 activities, I think Jeremy Forcey is a really good example because he's just a work machine. Here's the reality. If you want to go from level 1 to level 2, you have to create a work structure, a discipline. It's almost very elementary that people are probably tired of hearing it beat into their heads, but you have to create the daily discipline to make your calls, to visit your clients. And like you said, do the video. Set the benchmarks. You're going to do 2 videos a week. You're going to visit 10 realtors. You're going to make 10 calls a day. And because in the beginning, it is about more. The reality is that you're not doing enough. I had a client visit Jeremy because he happened to be up in the area, and he came back to me and he told me, it's pretty amazing because he didn't necessarily do a lot of amazing things. And trust me, this is a compliment. But what he did amazing was the basic things very, very consistently. He was just a calm machine. And I think Jeremy would tell you that. And we've heard it over and over and over again, but that's the reality. And Scriptapalooza, that's another thing. Sales skills. This is about scripting. Watch the Scriptapalooza video. Okay, between the Scriptapalooza video and listening to how somebody like Jeremy regiments his day, that'll get you over to level 1, level 2, easily.
So let me add something.
It's not that hard.
It isn't. It's hard work, but it is quality. Like if you're not over level 1 and you're not delivering a total cost analysis at the point of sale, it really is insanity. Like this comment that I don't have enough time to learn it, or I don't have enough time to do it. It is the most quality way to deliver value at the point of sale. And here's I'm gonna pull a Ron Quintero quote, and I don't know exactly how he used to always say it. He's like, success is not about busyness, it's about business. And he used to always do that busyness versus business analogy. And I find that loan officers that are stuck in that level 1 zone, they're pretty busy. They're not like, wasting time necessarily, although some of them are, but you're doing busyness and you're not doing business. And I also, push you to some of the calls I've done with Todd Bookspan and Win by Noon. The Win by Noon planner is designed for loan officers to book in their days, track their activities, and I would just say the most important metric, and really the most important metric going from 1 to 3 is prospect time. And the Josh Vettel interview where he talks about 2 hours of prospecting a day, I would just say, if you just did that, you'd be good. And then, quality, make sure that every single prospect's getting that total cost analysis. Make sure every single prospect, their story, and their goals, and you're turning their story and their goals into reality. So you're not selling mortgages, you're selling, I'm going to help you build wealth with real estate by making a mortgage decision that aligns with your goals. If you just did those 2 things, prospected like a madman or woman, and delivered an amazing mortgage coach experience, boom, you're there. You're in level 2 zone. I don't know. Two quick time management tips. Because time management is always talked about. Okay. I learned a philosophy called the 4 burner theory. So imagine a stove with 4 burners, and the stove has a limited amount of gas though. Okay. So if you have 4 pots with raw food, you can only, if you want to turn 4 burners on, they can only be on low. So how do you cook food
on low. You can't. What you have to do is you have to turn one of the stoves up on high, but in order to do so, one of the burners is going to turn off. Okay. So the strategy is turn two of the burners on high, have two of them off, that'll cook. And then once that's cooked, flip them around, put the other two on high, those two will cook. And now you've got 4 pots with cooked food, and now you can put them all on low. The 4 burners represent the analogy of life. Whether you're looking at life as a whole, you have your business, your family, your health, and your personal life, or it's within your business because you have to deal with your clients, your realtors, configuring MortgageCoach, and funding, clearing conditions, and everything else. You're always being pulled in 4 different directions. And when you think about the concept of balance, how do I do everything? Well, balance is an interesting thing because you can't really achieve balance unless everything is cooked, because you're either going to do, because if you're going to do 4 things evenly, it's either you've already achieved that and you've maintained it, or you'll never get off the ground. And so the only way to get up to a certain level is you have to shift time into burners. And so learning and understanding how to do a TCA needs to be done. You're not going to be able to do that on low. You have to shift hours, mad hours into that. Think about it when we all grew up. When you go to school full time, you can't work full time, right? And when you work full time, you can't go to school full time. You have to do it part time. And that's the reality of our business. So from a time management point of view, it's about shifting massive hours into things, which leads me to time management number 2. One of the best time management things that I do is I call it CEO time. If you look at a lot of the most successful CEOs in the world, they have this time frame between, it's like 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. that they're up early before everybody, and they're doing work. And they do work during those hours because phones aren't ringing, text messages aren't coming in, clients aren't calling, and that's a time that you can throw a lot of time into that burner period and work on figuring out how to do your TCAs, your annual reviews, your equity repositioning reports, everything. And just do that for a short period of time. You don't have to burn that forever. Set aside 2-3 mornings from 5 to 8 a.m. Figure it out. Get it done. It's about shifting massive hours. I'm not a huge proponent in doing time management, time blocks where it's like, okay, from 8 to 10, I'm going to do this. 10 to 12, I'm going to do this. It's more like, if I want to do something big, then I'm going to go big. I'm going to wipe out an entire Friday and just do videos. I'm going to wipe out an entire Monday and learn something. Okay, just wipe out days and hours, block it off, get out of the office, because it's the only way. You have to put so much massive force into something. Otherwise, you just have these 4 burners that are never going to cook. And that's what time management is about. It's putting massive, massive, massive shifts into things. And it doesn't have to be forever, you know? Do it for a couple of weeks, you're done. And the other thing about time management is about doing things that either help you multiply your business in the future or eliminate tasks in the future. If you do a little bit now that eliminates something in the future, you won't have that problem with business before. Because what we're working towards, I want to give everybody in level 1 and level 2 some hope, because at the end of level 1 is level 2, and you're going to start making more money. Once you start making more money, you will have the funds and the capital to build a team in level 3. So everything has a logical sequence and a logical session to it, right? So you have to understand the early sacrifice in the very beginning. Put the hours in, create some funds, then you can start looking at building a team as you're creating systems, and then you go from there. That's my favorite way of time management. Otherwise, it's complicated. I just block out days.
Yeah,
I did that like 2 weeks ago. I just did a video day.
Hey, whatever works, just you got to get it done. And I want to see everybody in the Mortgage Coach community out of level 1. And not everybody wants to be level 4. I mean, that is not an ambition level. Everybody's not there, but I mean, everybody I know who's in the mortgage business wants to be level 2 or higher. I don't know people who's like, oh, right, level 1 is where I want to be. That's my goal. So guys, good stuff. Khai, we got about 20 minutes, and I know you got some good slides here. So I just want to give you a time check, and I want to make sure we get through your message.
Yep. All right. So then we create systems, and we can finally level this off. Okay. That's solo. This is working with a team with no systems. Now we finally have a team, and we're working decent hours. I remember coaching Mike Metz, great originator out of Scottsdale, Arizona. When he first came to me, he was doing 250 loans a year. And I said, then what do you need me for? You're doing 250 loans a year. He says, well, I have a team, but I'm still working 60 hours a week. And what I did with him that first 8 months is we just gave him systems. He already had the people. We just gave him systems. And that tapered him off down to a 45-hour work week, where he started saying, well, now I kind of feel bad because I feel like I'm not working. And I said, that's just guilt. That's ridiculous guilt. If you want to work a little bit more, then put in the extra hours and figure out how to build your business and learn new things. Okay. So right here, this is, I think, a lot of what people know. And then there's a blueprint of how to get to the other areas. But then we run into another dilemma. And that's the great thing about this mortgage industry. Once we think that we figured it out, something is going to get thrown at us again. And the dilemma is peaks and valleys. Okay. You can have your business completely set up like this. And I know originators that have had their business completely set up all the way, level 2, level 3, level 4, and then something hits. The market hits, they get sick, they take time off, or they just got out of the discipline mode. They didn't make their calls, or even worse, 10 years in the industry, they get burned out and they don't want to do it anymore. They don't want to do the calls. They don't want to do mortgages anymore. And that's a huge issue. And so I'm always looking at people and trying to help them with that burnout or that massive drop in business. And there's probably a good percentage of the community right now that is going through that right now. And how do you lift yourself back up? And I think the obvious is, well, just get back on it. But then it's kind of like the cyclical thing, like, oh God, I got to work more. And then they don't want to do it. So Dave, if you remember back in the day, I used to do this thing called the quarterly reviews, not just the annual reviews, right?
I
absolutely
remember.
Yeah, that was before the annual reviews came big. What I basically did was I did like a quarterly credit review with people. I would do a soft credit pull, and then I would call my clients and let them know what they qualify or don't qualify. And then I would use TCAs and equity repositioning reports to tell them what they could or couldn't do. And that was what I was taught from my mentor, Bill Hillestead, that always talked about databasing. And the concept behind databasing is what I call the business continuum, is that when you create business, there's no dead ends. How do you go further and wider with relationships? Okay. Because I think one of the things that plagues loan officers, you can have this great structure, but if you're constantly chasing new business, that's where it gets hard. And that's where people are always like, well, how do I create a mortgage business that I'm not always chasing new business and always making phone calls and always doing this and this and that? And what it is, it's about creating a business model that always continues, that has no dead ends to it. And I call that the self-running business model. If your business is self-sustaining, self-managing, and self-growing. And I know that these are a lot of fancy words, but to simplify it, let me scroll down here. It's really about maintaining relationships, pushing relationships, managing your database. There's a lot of people right now, you guys have what I call the leaky bucket, and you're out there in the market and you're doing all these new things to bring in business, but what you're doing is you're losing past business. You're losing past clients, you're losing relationships. Some of you have complained to me, oh, I used to have this realtor that used to give me a lot of business. Now they don't. And we've lost sight of that because you're always fixated on new and grow and add and new and grow and add, and you're not taking care of the bucket you have. So you're putting water into this bucket, but it's just leaking. And so the concept of the self-running business model is keeping your business sustainable, self-managing, and self-growing, right? And doing that, you're not gonna push back because you're not losing any business. And one of the things we talked about, and Dave, this is one of your kind of buzzwords, is mortgages under management. You build a database, and your size of your database, if you look at different statistics, the average person conservatively is going to get a new home every 10 years. And that's not including refinances and special interest financing. So relatively speaking, somebody's going to get a loan every 5 to 10 years. And if we're constantly looking at new people and we're not paying attention to those people, we're going to lose them, and they're going to use another loan officer. And we talked about annual reviews over and over and over again, Dave. And what annual reviews, I have to remind people, what it allows people to do is you get a 10% pull through on your database. So if you have 1,000-person database, there's people listening to this call that have 1,000-person database. If you're doing your annual reviews, you have mortgages under management, you're calling them, you're showing them the different TCA reports, you should get a 10% pull through, which is 100 loan opportunities a year. 100 loan opportunities a year. And I call that market proof, because it's not about the market, where the market's going and getting new clients. These are people that are already your existing clients, and they're just going to turn over because they need a new house, or they need to refinance, or some special interest loan, or debt consolidation. And doing this continues your longevity. When I got into the mortgage business, I wasn't really a salesperson. I had to eke out as much business as I could. And my mentor told me, build a database and nurture your database, and you always have business. And for those of you that have 3,000-4,000 person databases, that's 300-400 loans a year. I mean, before we think about the new realtor that we're going to meet, or the new this or the new that, think about all the money that's underneath you right now, right? Make those calls. But going back to this model, in terms of systems, it's one thing to do annual reviews. And we talk about it all the time, right? They do annual reviews, but you have to systemize the annual reviews. You have to tell yourself, when am I going to do it? How often? What's my process to do it? And as a business owner, you have to think to yourself, everything that I do has to be a process. Everything that I do has to be a system, so that's my permanent stream of income. My permanent stream of income. Like that interview with Wally doing annual reviews, he went from 3% referral to 30% referrals. I mean, you systemize that, and he's going to have a permanent, that many referrals every single year. Okay. But if he falls off the wagon at all, that 30% is gone. So then it's a matter of just structuring it. And I love Wally because he's like the more technological version of what I did. I used to have to manually make phone calls, but he's using the Agent Legend and Slide Dial and all the technology and automate it. And I was thinking too. And I think one of the things was call in, and then his assistant was going to make a phone call, right? Like up the ante. Don't even call in, just send a link that sends them to a calendar program that says, just book me on my calendar. Yeah. Just automate the whole thing. Automate the whole thing.
So I want to jump in two things. One, if you're on this call, I want you to, in comments down below, whether you're on Facebook or you're in Zoom, how many mortgages do you have under management? And for anybody that doesn't know what a mortgage under management is, it's a past customer, and you have their contact information, and you can communicate with them. So how many mortgages under management? And I want you to answer that. Now, for those of you that are brave, I'd love for you to answer, how many loans did you close last year from your past customer database or from your mortgages under management? And that, by the way, everybody, is your current pull-through rate. So where are you today? And then you heard Khai, 10% is a benchmark. I think Wally closed the year at about 9%. He went from 21 past client loans to 81 or 82 past client loans. So if you got nothing else from today's call, hopefully everybody will, write down below, or write it down yourself if you don't like to post on social. I'll respect that. Write it down on your own desk. How many mortgages under management / past customers? How many loans did I do last year? That's your percent. 10% is the benchmark. How much money are you leaving on the table? Keep it rolling. You got about 10 more minutes, Kai.
I wouldn't be afraid. When I look at my database, I also include all my past prospects that possibly didn't do business with me. Because let's just say I lost a client to Quicken or to Wells. That's fine. You know what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years? They're going to need another loan. Keep in touch with them. Call them, because they're going to find after doing that first loan, they may not want to do that. They may not want to do that loan again. Think about it this way. If you don't keep in touch with your past clients, that means that they're going to go someplace else next time. Now think about it another way. Do you think Quicken and a lot of these companies, or your competitors, I'll say, do you think they're keeping in touch with their past clients? No. So that's an opportunity for you to grab that next loan next time. Your mortgages under management should be everybody that you talk to, whether you got the loan or not. They're going to get another loan in the next 5 to 10 years. So you may have a past client database, let's say of 500 or 1,000, but if you include all the prospects that you talked to, you did a pre-approval for, they shopped you, whatever it was, now that can grow 2-3 times, right? And it's creating processes for that. But again, I'm going to stress, it's one thing to do it, it's another thing to create processes for it. Let me jump to this slide. Creating processes is about like 3 really simple steps. You implement it the first time, you tweak it until it's right. That's step number 1. Then from there, you create a checklist. You said, okay, I did these 5 things, so I'm going to write down the 5 things in some type of outline, in some type of procedure. And then you ask yourself this question: how do I schedule it, automate it, or delegate it? If you can get to number 3, you've systemized your business with everything that you do. Can I schedule it, automate it, or delegate it? And if you look at your business and all the things that you do, from doing loans to doing annual reviews, to doing realtor appointments, to doing this and that, if you can run through this really simple 3-step process in everything that you do, that's how you systemize your business, and that's how you make it market-proof from pulling back. And just other examples, I'll blast through them. Realtor referral partner maintenance programs. What are you doing to keep in touch with the realtors? I think it's a little embarrassing. I'm going to be blunt. I think it's a little embarrassing when I hear people say, yeah, this realtor, I kind of lost track with them. And I say, wow, you spent so much energy getting that realtor, and because you didn't put the energy to maintain that relationship, they've dropped off the face of your business and they're not referring business to you. So develop a maintenance program for them. Whether it could be as simple as just scheduling regular meetings and appointments with them, or if there's other ways, bring them into a community, bring them into Facebook groups. I like to do mastermind groups. But again, schedule it, automate it, delegate it. I have a client that are in level 3, level 4, they delegate it. They have a production partner, and that production partner goes out and meets with the realtors on a regular basis. That's how you can delegate that stuff. This was I have this slide, but Wally talked about that a lot, is getting more referrals. I would say this right now: every single client that you have, every single closed transaction you have, you should get 3 referrals per transaction, minimum 3 referrals per transaction. You should get a referral from the buyer, the buyer's agent, and the listing agent, right? I want everybody on this call to think about how many loans you closed in the last 3 months. In the last 3 months. So let's just say you closed 4 loans a month in the last 3 months, which is 12 loans. If you got 3 referrals per transaction, those 12 loans, it's 36 referrals. What happens is we close a loan and we immediately look to something new instead of looking at a loan and saying, how can I get more out of this? How can I ask for a referral from the buyer? How do I get a referral from the buyer? And Scriptapalooza, I'll give you a great script. I don't know if anybody's done this, Dave, in terms of a great referral script. I've heard a ton of them. I think they're all great. What I always did for referrals is I learned a technique called the upfront contract. The upfront contract is basically setting the expectation in the very beginning. You tell your client, you say, my number 1 goal is to provide you a 5-star level service in terms of providing the expertise that you need, providing you a great customer experience, and also executing and closing on time. That's my promise to you. Let me ask you but I have a favor to ask you. If I deliver on that promise of 5-star service, can I ask you a really, really small favor? And they're going to say yes, because they're going to get something out of it. You say, can I just ask, in the next 30 days, can you keep your eyes and ears open for close friends, family members, or coworkers that you know that are thinking about buying a home, and can you please introduce us? And you say that at the very, very beginning of the call. And what you're doing is you're setting an expectation that I'm working hard for you, and you're going to get all these things, but I'm going to go above and beyond. And if I go above and beyond, I would like the favor back for you to create a referral. Now, every time you talk to them, you don't have to do this fancy referral script every single time. You do a status call with them. You do an update call with them. You do a Tuesday call with them. And asking for a referral is really simple. You just say, hey, have you kept your eyes and ears open? Did you run into anybody? When you create that contract at first, it's easy to ask for a referral later because you've already set the expectation what you would want from them. And Bill Hart, who's a great friend of mine and coach too, Same thing for if you want a Zillow or Yelp review. It's like, how do you get a Zillow or Yelp review? We ask them in the very beginning. If I deliver 5-star service, can I ask a favor of you? Can you introduce me to somebody you know? Can you take like 2 minutes to do Yelp review? And that's how you start jacking up your Yelp reviews, your Zillow reviews, your Google reviews, your Facebook reviews. If you guys put energy into this in the very beginning, the very, very beginning of the call, you'll set up more referrals from everybody else.
So Kai, I want to do two things. One, anyone that loved that, and I know a lot of you did because I saw someone go, boom, that was money. I'm seeing comments fly. Write that down. Write down that script. Remember, this is recorded. Someone, please do the community a favor and put that script in chat down below. So whether it's our Facebook group and you're watching the recording, if it's YouTube, play that forward. Anybody who writes that down, share it with the community. Kai, I want to get a few more takeaways from you, but I also want to make sure anyone that wants to connect with you as a coach, they want to learn more from you, what are the best channels and ways for people to connect with you and go to the next level?
2 simple ways. You can reach out to me on Facebook. I'm the only Khai McBride in the world. So if you find me on Facebook, friend me, send me a DM, and my website, KhaiMcBride.com. You can go to my website. You can read about what I do, and there's a couple links to contact me. And I'm on Instagram too. I'm Instagram and Facebook. My business page and my Instagram page is Khai McBride Coach. Or, friend me. Dave, you know me. I love making friends. It's not just about mortgages, but let's have a fun time together. Let's talk about sports. Let's make jokes. Friend me. Let's have a laugh. And here's another thing. That's what relationships is about, guys. Everybody's so robotic in relationships. When you're out there building relationships with realtors, you're building relationships with clients. It's about going deeper and talking about all the fun stuff. Because think about it this way. If you've got a 5 to 10 year gap between now and the next time you do a loan, what are you going to talk about? You're just going to call them up every single time and say, oh, I'm calling you about your mortgage. Or figure out whether they like sports. Figure out whether they like traveling. So every time you call them, you can ask them, hey, did you go to Thailand? How was that? How are your kids going? Or what did you think about the Rams getting blown out in the Super Bowl? That's really heart-wrenching for me. Right? Like, talk about those things because you have to manage that gap in between. So be a person. Just be a person. I can't tell you how many times people that I've worked with, it's just because I've been Facebook friends with them for 3, 4, 5 years. I just entertain them in different ways. And then when it's time, they're ready to talk about business, they approach me and they talk about business. And really quickly, that upfront script works the same with real estate agents. I ask people this, if you did 12 purchase transactions in the last 3 months, right? You're level 1, level 2. There were 12 listing agents there. How many listing agents did you convince to work with you? I love it when somebody is always asking, well, how do I meet a new agent? How do I meet a new agent? And I said, there were 12 listing agents. You couldn't even get the 12 listing agents to work with you. And you want to go meet new agents, right? And it's not necessarily because you're not good enough. It's because it's just really just a lack of technique. The upfront script is really, really simple. The upfront contract, it's similar to a listing agent. Call them up, do an introduction call with them. Tell them, this is my goal. My goal is to make you look outstanding to your seller. And it's going to look outstanding because we're going to close on time. It's going to be an amazing experience, not just for my buyer, but for you, both agents and the seller. And that's my commitment to you. Would you agree that should be my goal? And they'll say yes. And you say, can I ask you a small favor? If I deliver that service, can I ask you a small favor? Yes. If I'm able to deliver that service to you, do you think at the end of the transaction, we can talk about possibly working together? Okay. There's a technique. I do a variation of that technique, but I just wanted to keep it simple that the upfront contract is so powerful because you're saying, if I deliver this and I go above and beyond, could I ask you that? Would you be willing to give something back?
So Kai, you have crushed it, brother. I sent you an invite, so hopefully you can make it this Friday at 9 o'clock Pacific. I hope everybody thinks about that dichotomy of more or better. If you're closing less than 5 loans a month and you're not prospecting 2 hours a day, it's more. If you're closing not enough business and you don't have a great conversion rate and you're not delivering a total cost analysis, it's about quality, not more. So there is this dichotomy, and you need to always ask yourself, do I need to do more of something or do I need to do a more quality job of something? If you don't know how many mortgages you have under management, well, I can assure you there's a quality issue with the way that you're thinking about and addressing your past customers. if you're not prospecting consistently and you haven't built the discipline and the systems, you know, the win by noon playbook, I can assure you it's about quality. You need to get your head straight. You need to get focused. So hopefully you got value from today's call. Khai McBride is going to be more active in our community. Him and I talked when we did this prep call, and he's like, Dave, I love the Mortgage Coach community. I want to give more value. So let us know what questions you want us to talk about next time. Khai, I'm grateful for you, brother. Thank you for an hour.
Thanks for having me back, Dave.
And we'll see you this Friday, brother, 9 o'clock Pacific.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
again, it's about going further, wider.
Yeah, and if you got value from this, give it a like, share it with your mortgage friends. If you're a manager, schedule a meeting and make this conversation part of that meeting. Take care, y'all.
Thanks, guys.